Have you ever walked into a place and felt something strange in the air? Like, even without hearing words, the gazes carried untold stories, and the silence had an inexplicable weight. Something invisible pulsing between the lines of the environment, an almost palpable tension you can't explain, but that deeply moves you. Have you ever wondered why, sometimes, amidst crowds you feel both seen and invisible, understood and isolated? It's as if you carry a silent presence, something you didn't choose, and many don't understand. Well, this video was made for you, who has felt this unique and unsettling sensation. I want you to know you're not alone. There's a rare aura, a presence that transcends appearance, status, or any social skill. I'm talking about a deep energy that touches invisible aspects of the human soul and, though silent, causes intense reactions around you. You're about to discover how this presence connects to the mysteries of deep psychology, especially the teachings of the legendary Carl Jung, and how it can be the key to understanding this universal search for meaning, for belonging, and, paradoxically, for isolation. But before we go on, I want you to actively participate. If any of these words have resonated with you, hit like, comment with your experience, or simply write, "I relate." Subscribe so we can explore this journey of self-knowledge and profound discoveries together. Now imagine there's something within you that's greater than any social label, that doesn't learn from the environment, but springs from an ancestral, unconscious source. To explain this phenomenon, we need to travel into the mind of Carl Jung, one of modern psychology's greatest thinkers. Jung revealed to us that beyond our everyday consciousness, there's a vast ocean called the collective unconscious, a kind of ancestral memory common to humanity, where universal symbols, images, and figures we call archetypes reside. These archetypes are like fundamental characters of the human soul, shaping not only our dreams, but how we perceive the world and present ourselves in it. They aren't learned, they're felt, experienced at a level that transcends words or conscious logic. Among them, there's a presence we rarely notice in ourselves, but that radiates a silent magnetism. This is the famous rare aura. The rare aura isn't common. According to some estimates based on Jungian texts and contemporary studies, less than 1% of the population possesses such a potent and true archetypal presence, one that doesn't conform to the environment or seek superficial acceptance. If you feel you carry something like this, it means you're part of a select group whose impact goes far beyond the surface of everyday life. This reality can seem both fascinating and lonely, but it's where a portal to individuation resides, the process of truly becoming who you are. Have you ever noticed how sometimes, just by being near someone, the people around them change? Glances shift, laughter silences, and there's an almost palpable tension in the air you can't explain. This happens because your rare aura acts as a psychological mirror for those around you. But a different kind of mirror. It doesn't reflect the image they want to see. It reflects what they themselves don't want to recognize, the shadow. In Jungian psychology, the shadow is that hidden part of our personality, repressed desires, fears, insecurities, everything we struggle to hide, but paradoxically are forced to face when we meet someone authentic, someone with a clear, strong aura. This presence awakens in people an involuntary reflection of their own internal weaknesses, and this can generate varied reactions, discomfort, withdrawal, even fear. This invisible impact explains why often you feel out of place, as if carrying a silent burden. It's not your fault. You're the catalyst for a deep reaction that people don't even consciously understand. You provoke a script break, that moment when masks fall, and the truth, however uncomfortable, appears. And this doesn't go unnoticed, even in restrained smiles or glances that shift too quickly. We live in a world full of masks, rehearsed smiles, empty words, choreographed behaviors to maintain social order. In this scenario, carrying authenticity is an act of unarmed courage and boldness. Your energy, raw and true, challenges general superficiality. It's a different vibration, one that doesn't conform to the pre-established script of daily interactions. Imagine the silent tension that arises when a person, in their essence, stands naked before the world, not in a physical exhibition, but an exhibition of the soul. This truth is uncomfortable because it interrupts the comfortable flow of social interaction. It demands attention, reflection, change, and because the world of masks fears the truth, it often reacts with rejection. Have you ever felt the weight of being this presence that no one knows what to do with? That person who seems to break the ambient energy just by existing, unsettling, destabilizing, but without any malicious intent. This is the energy of truth acting in its purest form, not to dominate, but to reveal. And even if it causes discomfort, it's a vital spark to transform any space it touches, an invitation for others to also awaken from the slumber of masks. From a very young age, you noticed there was something different about how you experienced the world. While other children ran carelessly through school or the park, you already carried an invisible weight on your shoulders. A continuous feeling that there was something more happening, even when no one said anything. You heard the absence in people's tone of voice. You felt the hidden pain in small gestures. You sensed conflicts before they became real. Many times you tried to ignore it, tried to be like the others. But this sensitivity insisted on manifesting itself. It wasn't learned. It was instinctive, spontaneous, natural. While you seemed to see beyond appearances, no one seemed to see you as you really were. This sensitivity, which for so long you might have perceived as a weakness, is in fact a portal. It's the interface that connects you to what Jung called the collective unconscious, that deep layer of existence where our souls meet before our personalities organize themselves. When you feel you carry a pain that isn't yours, or when you feel longing for something you've never lived, you're actually accessing this invisible ocean. Archetypal memories, inherited emotions, ancestral wounds. Your body is sensitive because your soul is open. And this openness isn't a defect, nor an accident, it's a calling. But it's not easy. Often, this sensitivity leads to deep exhaustion. You feel the environment, carry others' emotions, perceive nuances so subtle they can barely be explained. And since no one talks about it, about this inner antenna you seem to carry, you start to doubt yourself. You believe you might be exaggerating or being too emotional. But you're not. You just have an energetic and spiritual connection to the world that most people haven't awakened to yet. It's like you live with the volume of reality turned up high all the time, and no one around you notices the sound. This spiritual sensitivity is what opens you to depths that many will never access. And along with it comes something inevitable, the solitude of being different. Maybe you've already experienced something like this. You barely opened your mouth, and suddenly, someone you barely know starts opening up, telling secrets, exposing their pains, revealing dark parts of their life that usually stay locked in internal vaults. For a few moments, time seems to stop. The connection is real, intense, and then that person simply disappears. No explanation, no continuation. They're gone. Silence. Have you ever wondered why this happens so often to you? The answer is in your silence, more precisely, in the power contained within it. There are presences that speak without making sounds, that touch without contact, that listen before the other person even says anything. And that's exactly what happens to the bearer of this rare aura. Their energy activates the other's unconscious. It effortlessly invites the exposure of what's hidden. In deep psychology, this is known as a projection collapse. When someone approaches a pure, authentic energy that refuses to wear masks, all artificial filters begin to fail. That's why your silent presences act as mirrors, but not just any mirror. You are, by nature, mirrors that show what's behind the mask. You reflect the unspoken. And this, in a world accustomed to illusion, is devastating. That's why people open up to you, and then, soon after, pull away. Do you feel like they see you as a safe harbor, only to abandon the dock as soon as they touch it? This happens because, when they talk to you, the veil falls. They say more than they'd like. They show more than they wanted to. They reveal wounds they've spent their lives hiding. And in the next moment, overwhelmed by shame, fear, or unable to bear their own reflected vulnerability, the other party retreats. It's a silent dance between depth and the dread of touching it. You don't need to say anything. Your presence is already an invitation to dive deep. But not everyone is ready to dive. Over time, this can create in you a sense of continuous loss, people who come and never stay, intense and fleeting connections. A kind of cycle where you connect very deeply, but without permanence, as if you were a flame that warms but also reveals everything in the darkness. And not everyone is ready for the light you ignite. There's a pain that has no name, a silent but constant wound, the one where you're surrounded by people and yet feel like you're not really there. They smile, talk, live, but you observe everything as if from another time, from another place. You participate, but you don't belong. This is perhaps the deepest layer of the journey for those who carry this aura, the feeling of not fitting in, of being a stranger in your own nest, even in your own home, a silent disconnection that crosses all places, relationships, cycles. Jung said that the path of individuation, the process of becoming who we truly are, is not socially comfortable. On the contrary, it leads us to solitude, to the margins, to the deafening silence where we finally find ourselves. The soul that walks in individuation gradually sheds what is not essential, and in doing so, it inevitably moves away from what is common. This absence of social fit is not a defect, it's a sign, an indication that you are crossing a spiritual portal. Your internal system is trying to break free from conditioning, from the need for external approval, from the identity masks built to function in society. But this process is painful because while detaching from all of this, you still live in a world that values all of it. Labels, shallow ties, manufactured smiles. You look around and don't see much of yourself in others. You don't see a reflection. You don't see similarity. And this, every now and then, gives you the feeling that maybe the problem is you. But it's not. The fact that you don't fit in doesn't mean you're broken. It means you are whole in a broken world. You feel too much, hear too much, perceive too much. And no matter how much you try to numb or distract yourself, there's always something in you that returns to the search. Why am I like this? You are like this because you are treading the path of the soul, a slow, subtle, radically true path. And this brings an inevitable consequence, being a present body, but a foreign soul. But it is precisely this foreign soul that one day finds its true land, a space of belonging not in crowds, but in the depths of one's own being. And when that happens, the world may continue to be incomprehensible, but, at least, you stop fighting against your essence. In this pain of not belonging, there is a gift in disguise, the awakening of your mission. And whoever awakens to their mission finally understands why they never fit in where they weren't supposed to be. If you've made it this far, I want to ask you something true. Write in the comments if this feeling of not belonging also accompanies you. Not because you need to expose yourself, but because by sharing, you can be the silent signal another soul was waiting for to feel less alone. And if this journey is touching you in any way, like this video now, and share it with those who carry this same flame. We still have more to explore, and in the next parts, we will go even deeper into this transformative process. We're only halfway through the journey. Have you ever tried to explain how you feel and realized that words simply don't match what you carry inside? You try to describe with logic, with clarity, to name the sensations. But what escapes your mouth doesn't even come close to what silently pulses in the center of your chest. And the other person, they smile confused, change the subject, respond with generic phrases, or look as if you're exaggerating. That's when the abyss grows. Because genuine communication goes beyond speech and far beyond social language. The kind of presence you carry communicates through other channels, more subtle, older, almost archetypal. It inhabits the silences between words, the expression in the gaze, the tone of voice, the subtle breath. Your language is energetic, symbolic, silent, and precisely because of this, often misunderstood. You speak, but you're not heard. You feel, but you're not embraced. You try to show yourself, but you're misinterpreted again and again. This generates a kind of invisible pain, not from a lack of company, but from a lack of real connection, inserted among people, but out of sync with their vibration. It's as if you're on a subtle frequency that few reach, and not because you're better or worse, but because you traverse layers that most haven't accessed yet. Carl Jung spoke about the symbol as a language superior to the sign. The symbol doesn't explain, it evokes, and your energy is that, an evocation to the soul. When you enter an environment, you carry this invisible call on your back. Others don't know why, but something within them stirs. Some feel attracted, others feel threatened. But it's always intense. Always. This is the challenge of living in symbolic depth. You act with the soul, but the world responds with the ego. And the ego fears what it doesn't understand. Jung said, "What you resist persists." When you touch, even unknowingly, someone's unconscious resistance, that person can project onto you exactly what they don't accept in themselves. And what starts as attraction often ends with distance, judgment, or rejection. That's why you so often find no echo, and you feel this existential exhaustion of not being able to translate what inhabits you. But this symbolic solitude is not punishment. It is preparation. One day, it will become language. A silent language that those who walk awake will one day recognize, even without needing words. People meet you, and initially feel something powerful. They say they've never met anyone like you, that the connection is different, that being near you makes them see the world with more depth, with more truth, and for a few moments, everything seems like a perfect dance. But slowly, something changes. You remain the same, but the person starts wanting something different. They try to mold your way of being. They expect reactions you don't offer. They fantasize about approaches that don't match your truth. They start to project hope, neediness, an ideal model of companionship, romance, redemption, healing, all of it, onto you. And when you don't meet these expectations, out of loyalty to your inner integrity, what was enchantment turns into discomfort. What was admiration becomes a demand. And the same person who saw you as rare begins to judge you for not being what they idealized. This is the cycle: attraction, projection, disappointment. It's a plot that repeats itself often, not because you do something wrong, but because your presence is like a mirror that's too clean, and people fall in love not with you, but with the image they wish to see in you. The archetype activated by your presence stirs their unconscious, which responds as it can, by creating fantasies. Jung warned about the danger of projection. When we project what we don't know about ourselves onto others, we inevitably make them prisoners of our ignorance. You, with your true aura, become a receptacle for desires that are not yours, and by not responding, you activate the other's frustration, not out of malice, but out of authenticity. It's a painful paradox. Your energy attracts what cannot be sustained. Your light calls, but also reveals. And that's where the challenge lies, to remain faithful to yourself, even when everything around you leads you to give in. But you weren't born to fit in, nor to save anyone. Your function is not to meet others' projections. It's to disarm them. And even if this often results in estrangement, confusion, sadness, remember, you are not the cause of people's frustration. You are the mirror where they see what they haven't yet accepted in themselves. It's tough, it's unfair, but it's true. And the truth, as you know better than anyone, rarely comes dressed in comfort. And after all this, the silence, the deep energy, the sensitivity, the pain, the incomprehension, the frequent losses, and the not belonging, you might ask yourself, what's the purpose of all this? Why am I like this? The answer can be as subtle as it is powerful. You are here to be a kind of transformation that doesn't depend on words or flashy actions. You are presence. Your existence is already an impulse for change in the souls of others, a silent reminder of what it is to be true in a world struggling with roles. But this mission is not a task. It's not a crusade. It's not martyrdom. It is a state. Being awake in a sleeping place is in itself a living prayer. And this prayer doesn't shout. It doesn't debate. It doesn't convince. It just radiates. As the poet Rilke once said, to be here is immense. Immense, and at the same time invisible. People may forget your name, may not understand your gaze, may not recognize you when you leave, but something within them will have changed. And that's the most beautiful part. Your impact isn't in the now, it's in the resonance. You are the kind of presence that plants seeds in foreign soil. And sometimes that plant only grows years later. Your touch isn't impact, it's transformation in silence. That's why you always felt there was something more. Because there is. And even if this silent mission costs you a solitary path, know this. You were never lost. You were being led to remember who you are. You're not strange, you're not weak, you're not weird, you're rare. And the world needs rarity. It needs those who look into the dark and still choose to remain open-hearted. It needs those who shake structures without raising their voice. It needs you. And now I ask, if these words have touched something within you, don't keep it to yourself. Perhaps on the other side of the screen, someone has been waiting years to hear exactly this. Share it. Say, I am this presence. Write in the comments how this journey resonated with you deeply. Like, if this resonated with you, and subscribe. Not out of vanity, but because we are building a space where depth is not an exception, but a path. You are not alone. You never were. And all of this that you feel is real. It's precious. It's your silent way of transforming the world. And precisely because you are this way, you are necessary.